Hey everybody, welcome to this week's Star Report. This is Jason here at New Dimensions Crystals and Reiki in downtown Burnham, Texas. Today is Wednesday. I believe it is June the 14th, if I can see the tiny little calendar in the bottom right hand of my screen. And of course, the Star Report is going to tell us about solar weather and the astrology that's happening so you can better know why do you feel the way you feel and what the heck is the universe trying to do to us. All kinds of things, apparently. This week, though, it's feeling a little weird, or maybe it's just me feeling a little weird. You never know. But I think that I'm paying attention to the cosmos so that I can tell you the sensations you should be feeling. And so sometimes these sensations and this energy sort of forecast will differ, and probably in two noticeable ways. If you are a proponent or a practitioner of subtle energy and you sort of notice small changes, then you'll probably feel things more like I do. And then sometimes if you are not like that, if you were just sort of going through your day and like, wow, this feels weird, then you might sort of have the sort of relaxed view of this, and some of the bigger things might affect you, but the subtle stuff you might not be noticing. And by all means, you don't have to. It's just if you do, it's always good to know what is going on rather than, oh my God, something's going on and I don't know what it is. And so that's why I'm here. So let's jump right into the report about solar weather. Solar weather is what I think is causing the most interesting energy this week. The sun, the main thing that's happening on the sun is a coronal hole, which is if you are looking at solar telescopes that are looking at the sun, it's the dark spots on there that are holes. And what that is, it's sort of the inner sun rather than the surface sun starts to shine through in a dark spot, and that gives us a plasma stream that comes and sort of hits the Earth. It usually comes a little slower than a solar flare as those kind of launch out of the sun. And so when that starts to begin pointing towards us, which it started in today or in the last night, started to be Earth facing. And so that Earth facing sun coronal hole is going to hit us with plasma, which is usually just sort of a pressure squeeze, right? So seismic activity might increase, thunderstorms might get worse over the weekend, and if you sort of have cardiac issues, there can be some sort of pressure in the center of the chest, not necessarily an excitement like a heartbeat raising, but sort of a pressure like it's a tightness in the chest. And that would be some energy that would be happening probably starting Friday night, Saturday morning. So look out for that. But the thing, that's normal. If you listen to my report, that happens a lot. And it usually sort of happens apparently just on Wednesdays, because I think this was the same report for the coronal holes last Wednesday. And so that energy is going to stay similar. But the solar flaring, which is when things release or at least flash from magnetic sort of storms or sunspots that are on the surface of the sun, those have been lower this week. So there hasn't been as much solar flaring. And so when there's lower solar flaring and you've been sort of used to it, sometimes it almost feels like you're coming down from a caffeine high or a sugar high, like it's a crash. And so if you've been paying attention, this is where the sort of differentiation, if you've been using this energy of the cosmos to sort of work on yourself and use that energy for the day and sort of guide yourself by that, then you might be feeling like you need another dose, you need some more caffeine, you need more coffee, a little bit sluggish. I've just sort of felt out of sorts, right? So because I've been drawing from this energy from the cosmos, and now it's just kind of like, oh, where'd it go? And so that's sort of happening. And so the low flaring, there are some sunspots that are coming Earth facing, so that might pick up this week. But definitely over the last 7 days, it's been low. And of course, we're hitting that low because the sun goes in, I believe it's 5.5 month cycles, which is not going to peak again until August, mid-August or August 1st. We'll just start looking for it in August. And so that energy, when that starts to peak, is really when we start to get that heart palpitations. The solar flares are usually the ones that cause more of the internet disruption, the brain fog, the triggering of mental spectrum stuff. Like if you happen to be dealing with mental issues, those will be inflared on those kinds of things. But like I said, those are calming down. So some of you who are like, hey, this feels great. Awesome. But it sort of feels like I need some caffeine for the last week and a half. And so that's been going on. I think that's everything for the sun. obviously put your questions in the comments, whether you're seeing this on YouTube directly or you're watching this on a Facebook or Instagram, which is just at New Dimensions Crystals. You can find that on your social media. So let's move right into Wednesday today, up into the stars. And today, what's happening is what's been happening for the last 59 days, 56 days. The Taurinian stellium is still what's sort of going on. And that Taurinian stellium, right, that's been that sort of ache or energy in the back of the head. And that Taurinian stellium is really sort of been helping you manifest your higher mind, your higher ideals, this sort of regeneration, springtime energy, moving into the summer. And so right here, your polyvagal nerve, right? And so that travels down, obviously, all the way into the solar plexus. And sort of governs your organs. And so that kind of energy of the stellium would have been helping you sort of manifest, have the stomach to do things, have the ability to detox with the liver, and the ability to let go of everybody else's opinion of you through the spleen. All that kind of stuff would have been sort of governed by that polyvagal nerve and right here at the back of the head, right? So that's what's been happening with this Taurinian stellium, and so that's still happening today. It's almost over. I think Friday is the last day of that. And then so today, really Mercury is active in the cosmos, sort of helping us find the language, right? And so maybe that's sort of the reason for the pause, or maybe those things in conjunction, the pause of the sun and this sort of Mercury sort of dominating the thing. And then after the retrograde, of course, we are able to speak more clearly, start to voice our opinions of what we've learned about ourselves over the last 60 days. And so we can start, or the energy of that is really, rather than responding, right? So sometimes during Mercury retrogrades or stuff that is really a big thing, we're sort of receiving all this information and we're responding to things around us as we incorporate it and change ourselves. Now it's really starting to, let's use our voice, let's use our throat chakra to start to create rather than react to a universe that is all around us, right? And so that ability to create is really starting to be strengthened today. Which moves us into tomorrow, Thursday, which would be the 15th. And Saturn sort of influences us, right? So what are we speaking? What are we creating? We're sort of creating this last little, last little bit of energy to the incense got right in my face. This last little bit of energy that is going to help us decide what we stand for, right? So Saturn is about rules and constructs, and also sometimes about karma. And so we'll get into that in a little bit. I think it goes retrograde here pretty soon. And so what are we creating as we speak? What are we standing for? What is the sort of, parameters from which we're going to build this thing? And the energy of the day and the energy of Saturn and the energy of what we've been working on with this Taurinian stellium is it's not what are the rules of the universe and help me figure them out. It's really what are the rules of my consciousness and how would I like to broadcast those in a nice, coherent way that is beneficial for me and therefore raises my vibration and therefore is beneficial to the group, right? So it's not about receiving the group's understanding of what you should be. It's about indwelling of what you want to be and then starting to broadcast and create a life of that. So that sounds like a big task on Thursday, but if you're not like me and you're not feeling like you need more solar energy to be flashing off, then you probably have plenty of energy to start to work through that, right? And so this isn't like changing your job, or this isn't yelling at people that need to be yelled at. This is really starting to just create, even silently, but in an intentional way, where the results are not just inward stuff like meditation, but they are creative stuff. Like maybe you've written in a journal and you have something to go by. You've written down some rules, or maybe you've started to invest some money, or maybe you've started to job search or look for a different place, right? And you start keeping those things in a spreadsheet. I don't do spreadsheets, but you're keeping those things in a chart and you're sort of doing stuff out loud. That's the energy of Thursday. And then Friday is really sort of the check-in date, right? So Friday is the end of the stellium. So that's been here for the last 2 months. And a lot of things that you're going to sort of see as the stellium ends is what were you working on, what sort of come to fruition, and with this energy of creating what you want and deciding to sort of do that out loud, there is this undergirding feeling that you were right about certain things in certain aspects of yourself and certain aspects of other people in your life all along, right? And so this discernment has really sort of not giving you something new to think about, but it's removed doubt, right? That situations and perspectives of life that you thought were maybe right, but you didn't act upon because maybe you thought you were being selfish, or maybe you didn't hear the information correctly, and you were sort of thinking something else was going on. But you're really going to have sort of this awareness that over the last 60 days, what's really been true has been sort of true all along. And this is sort of good checkpoints, right? That you've had this inkling maybe since you were young, maybe for a couple of years, but these start to come to a bigger understanding during times like this. And so these last 60 days with this Taurinian stellium, which is really about, what do you want to put into this life, and what are you giving to this world? That kind of energy is like, oh, that's what I've always been, right? And so it's this uncovering or this revelation where it's giving you certainty of you're moving in the right direction and you have the power to do what you want to do, and you're worthy of having that stuff done. Which leads us into Saturday, which is going to be the beginning. Saturday, I believe Saturn goes stationary and then starts to go retrograde on Sunday. And so Saturn, if we think it goes full retrograde on Sunday, Saturn goes retrograde on a 22 master day, right? So 22 master days is just a numerological understanding of the date code, right? And so depending on which calendar you use, or whatever the dominant calendar in the world is the one, the Gregorian calendar we use. And so when you sort of do the numerology of that there is this group energy of mastery on the 22 days, right? And that's sort of double 11, right? 11, 11, 22, 22, 33, 44. All those numbers are really sort of undergirding moves forward in consciousness. And so Saturn goes retrograde on a 22 master day, and that's also a new moon. And so new moon is about new beginnings, right? It's dark stuff, right? So these things that we're bringing out, this new sort of understanding is coming out of the darkness, right? So this could be stuff that's come from deep within you, or stuff that maybe you had assigned negativity to about yourself, or aspects about yourself that really weren't that at all, but were parts of you that were driving you towards this new you that you're building. And so that would be a good thing to sort of pay attention to on Saturday, Sunday, as Saturn goes retrograde. And so, like we sort of said, Saturn ruling here at the end of Taurinian stellium, right before it goes reverse. As it goes reverse, right, it starts to be about karmic judgment, right? And so if you've been looking at the world and judging it as not going according to plan, or that it might not be as benevolent as you would like it to be, then there's a lot of shifts that might be happening in culture that you might be paying attention to, that was karmic judgment, right? So things coming to justice, things going away, revelations being sort of brought to the fore. A lot of people are talking on the internet these days about the disclosure sort of process, and these, I guess, intelligence services, whistleblowers talking about alien craft, inner Earth, and then also the recovery and reverse engineering of human technology that may or may not be active in our skies, right? And so there's this whole understanding that's coming to light. And so the Saturn retrograde is really going to give us a karmic understanding of what all that is. And so that would be something to look forward to, as Saturn sort of reveals some pretty cool stuff. And if you're not into that, it doesn't have to be about that at all, but that is absolutely something that is moved into the mainstream, and isn't necessarily for those that just sort of go to MUFON or understanding of secret space programs. This is really sort of a group understanding that the world or common culture has to wrestle with. And so also pay attention to what is your inner voice saying, what have you known is true all along, and sort of take that with a grain of salt, because just because it's the revelation of new things doesn't mean that all of the revelations are meant for your highest good, or that they happen to have truth to them, right? And so pay attention to what's going on that front. But most of the time, that karmic judgment is really something to pay attention to, that ways of living and things that you may have been suffering through sort of come to an end. And so that would be a thing to celebrate on Saturday, Sunday. which leads us into Monday, right? If you're thinking that sounds a little overwhelming, that leads us into Monday, and Monday is a little bit easier because it begins the pre-shadow of Venus retrograde, right? And so Venus is about heart and love and understanding and self-confidence and connection, right? So just when it starts to feel like you're having all these revelations of like, whoa, the world isn't what I thought it was. What are these aliens flying in the sky? Your heart starts to tell you that, hey, you're this divine eternal soul that's never going to die, and you have infinite wisdom that is available to you through your heart, through your consciousness, right? And that when you're open to that sort of vibration, you can sort of take hold of that, right? And this is also sometimes to start to understand and appreciate your romantic relationships or even your familial relationships, right? If they've been difficult, you can sort of realize that tact-wise, there's been this undercurrent of love and connection, whether it be through the parent, through the spouse, or even that understanding that something beyond them is working through them to awaken this connection, this deep love for self, this understanding that you are lovable. So that's a Monday thing, right? Kind of intense. Which which leads us into Tuesday, right? All that information and energy is sort of going to be baking and simmering, and so Tuesday you want to sort of make the marriage of logic and intuition, of creative thought together, right? And start to use that energy to sort of like, hey, what out of this love, out of this understanding am I moving towards, and who and am I creating that with? And how am I governing that by love and karma, right? Love and karma. Interesting. Which leads us into the end of the week, which Wednesday, I believe, is the beginning of solstice. And solstice, we'll talk about that next Wednesday, but solstice is, moving into summer, ready for winter. And because it's the summer solstice, right? So we start preparing for everything we've created, right? And sort of solidifying that and deciding what that is so that when we move into winter, we can sort of hunker down and be who we are. And so the only other thing that's governing us is Pluto retrograde is still been in effect since May 1st, right? So that retrograde of Pluto is about understanding and assimilating your inner world, sometimes even your darker side, hidden talents, releasing old hurts and moving beyond them, right? So that's also helping with this Saturn retrograde and karmic justice and judgment, clearing out and healing the old, right? So you might still, even though Mercury retrograde's gone away, you might still be working on old hurts, right? If you've been in longer term relationships or you're older and you have, grown kids, all these kinds of old hurts and healings, right? So there's a lot of time to where you start to make sense of that. And that can even be with the passing on of certain things, right? Loved ones, animals, ends of jobs, ends of people retiring that might have been your boss for a long time. All those kinds of things are sort of clearing out. And sometimes they're emotional triggers, where I just sort of realize that what's happening is for your good and moving in the right direction. I believe that is everything that's happening in the stars. This week, of course, you can go to newdimensionscrystals.com and sign up for any kind of session that you might need. A lot of this energy work sometimes just gets overwhelming and you need a little bit of help moving that through you. You can go to the website and sign up for something if you're in the area and you want to come by and do that. Definitely the things that are going to be helping you work is to sort of breathe. Of course, we offer elemental rhythm breath work here at the shop, and those are private one-on-ones. And of course, if you want to split the cost, you can bring a friend, and it could be one-on-two. And so I can guide you and a friend through some sort of transformational stuff, or maybe even sort of a couples thing, if it's relationship stuff that you're working on. And, those sessions are about an hour and a half. So make time for that. But that's going to give you some rhythmic breathing, right? And so breathing is good for us because all this cosmic energy that's moving through us is sort of anchored to the molecules that we breathe in, right? So not only is oxygen and nitrogen and everything else in the atmosphere coming into it, but when paid attention to, and then even when not paid attention to, what also rides on that is what they call spiritual energy, which is sometimes called prana or chi. So things like Qigong or Tai Chi, would be things that are movements of energy, right? And so when you can breathe that energy in a rhythmic fashion into your body, it's almost like you're tuning an organ, right? And so when it has the correct amount of mixture of oxygen and carbon dioxide, then the body can produce a more vibrant, deeper sound. And then that deeper sound is sometimes a cleansing, right? So that would be a breathwork session if you wanted to look online and sign up and come by the shop and be here for one of those. I think that is going to be everything that I know is happening in the cosmos. Of course, I just hit the upper levels of that stuff. If you want to go details into your chart, like what's Pluto in your chart, I believe by next week we should also be moving into Cancer, which is the next zodiac sign. And some people feel things a little bit ahead of time. Oh, I'm going to add this to the report. Some people might feel things a little bit ahead of time before we get into the next zodiac sign. And so Cancer is really going to be governing sort of the chest area, the spleen, and the stomach, right? So just sort of pay attention that maybe your diet will change. Maybe you'll sort of not like certain foods that you've always liked. And then up in the chest and breast area, right? That's all about nurturing and connection. And then the spleen is really where we carry everybody else's BS, right? So if we happen to be in toxic environments, our spleen will be trying to energetically or emotionally sort of filter that out. And if we're not paying a lot of attention, that can sort of get clogged with everybody else's stuff and help us or not allow us to see our own self. And so just sort of pay attention when we sort of move into Cancer, that energy of that zodiac will help us sort of let go of everybody else's feelings that are holding us back, and or maybe even pay attention to those that we're carrying that can actually help us move forward, right? People willing or helping or having the intention of our higher good, right? That see in us so that what we don't see in ourselves. And so it doesn't have to be all bad when we're working on the zodiac or things that are happening and shifting, right? But it's just most people will feel the things that feel negatively effective more intensely than the things that are positively effective. And so just sort of pay attention that when you're feeling the negativity that you're releasing, and sort of search for the positivity that's left over after these shifts happen for you. That, I believe, is the end of the report. And until next time, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. I'm Jason. I'm here at New Dimensions Crystals and Reiki, and I'm wishing you many blessings.